good news is there's a Jubilee for us as God's people. Because where was the church 2,000 years ago? It wasn't status quo. It wasn't cultural, rich, and established, and comfortable, and lukewarm. It was the book of Acts. God is calling a Jubilee for us now. For those who will stand now in this day, we are to become as the book of Acts, on fire, revolutionary, world-changing, life-changing, all that. Now, I don't have time to go in. There's a whole thing about what we are to become, but let me just say, what's the ultimate thing that this mystery is heading to? If all these things are returning, the Jubilee is that the one who left has to return. Well, the one who's returning is Messiah. The ultimate Jubilee is the king must return to the kingdom. And so Messiah will come. That's what it's all leading up to.
It's time for another episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show, a podcast where I connect you with thought leaders from across the globe, digging into some of my favorite topics like personal development, marketing, spirituality, and pretty much any other shiny object that happens to catch my attention. Today, my special guest is New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Cahn, and we're going to be discussing his brand new book, The Oracle, the Jubilean Mysteries Unveiled. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Great to be with you, Shaun.
Well, we've only got 30 minutes today, so we're going to skip all the pleasantries and just jump right into the interview. So, Jonathan, what is the mystery of the Oracle, and why do you think it's for this time that we're in right now?
The mystery of the Oracle, for those who know the books I've done, this is, I believe, the biggest mystery I've ever opened. And it's a mystery that is so big that it encompasses everything. It's really what the secret that lies behind the past, the present, what's happening now in current events, the future, what is going to happen. It opens up a dimension where the hand of God over everything, events, world wars, the rise of America, President Trump, what he does and when he does it, when world leaders do what they do, the mystery of our lives even. It's really the blueprint of everything. So it's kind of opening up this dimension. And it's everything from Moses to Mark Twain, from Ezekiel to Donald Trump. It is gigantic. Basically, it's been coming for like 2 years. Before this, I did a book once a year. But there's so much. I have like 3,000 pages of these notes. And how do I get that into a book? So it's really an explosion of the reality of God. And why today is like we're in a culture that is seeking to dismiss God. And like this is old. This is the God of the Bible. That's just a story. The Oracle is revealing this is not only is God real, he's more real than this world. And it doesn't matter if you're a believer. The Oracle is for believers. It's for non-believers. You know, people have friends who don't believe. It's an explosion of the reality of the God. The God of the Bible is now and real and in charge of everything, even to the minute, the smallest details. I'll just give before to kind of set it up, and when we can go through, we can give a taste of it. There's so much there, we'll just be able to give a taste. But a few things. One is, imagine if there were scrolls in the world, and people open up these scrolls, and they speak the appointed words in that scroll that's appointed for that day. They chant them, they recite them. And in the world, as they do that, the events that they speak about in the scrolls are coming true. They start coming true. That is actually real. And imagine if we could find those scrolls or find those words. Well, that is one of the things that the Oracle reveals from the past into our day right now. Another one is the Jubilean Mysteries, which is the year of Jubilee is when you lost your land, you return home. You get back. You get restored to your ancestral possessions. Everyone shall return to their possession. Well, the amazing thing is that end-time prophecy focuses on Israel, and the Jewish people have to come back to the land. Well, God said it in the Bible. It's happened. Israel is back, but it's still happening. The amazing thing that I saw is that this whole thing follows the ancient mystery of the Jubilee, and the timing of it happens like clockwork, prophetic events, when they're going to happen, and there are events that are there that these mysteries tell you these events down to when they're going to happen in the modern world, down to the dates, not only the years, but the days, and even up to where we are right now. And when I mentioned, there's even about the scrolls, there's even an appointed word that was read, appointed for the day that President Trump was born. And it's amazing because it's all part of the mystery. So this is just a setup. And one last thing to set it up, just so people get an idea, and then we'll go through, is that as with The Harbinger, the first book, there's so much to reveal that I was led to reveal it with a narrative, a story around it. So it's just a delivery system, but it kind of takes you in, and it takes you into 7 doors of revelation. And each door opens up about maybe 8 major streams of mysteries. We'll, again, probably be able to touch on 1 or 2 in each door. But each one is part of that, and there's a man called the Oracle, like a prophet, who's revealing it. So that is the foundation. Give you a little taste of the Oracle.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for that perfect setup. And I can vouch for that. It's an engaging read. I really enjoyed going through it this weekend, and it was really, really hard to put down. The story is extremely engaging. So you'd mentioned that you're taking the reader on a journey. There's a series of visions, and we encounter 7 doors. So take us through that first door. What are we going to encounter there?
That's the kind of beginning of the end times as we know it. I mean, there's different versions of or ways of explaining it, but the end times as we know it begins in this kind of mystery year when things happen, about 150 years ago, where things happen, mysterious things start happening in the land of Israel. There's all sorts of mysteries in this, the man with the measuring line, the lost city that reappears, and I'll mention one, which is the stranger. Moses, before he died, told Israel that before God brings you back at the end of the age, last days, before he gathers you back from the nations to the land of Israel is going to be a wasteland. It's going to be desolate, barren, cursed land. It says, and this something's going to happen. A man, a stranger will come from far away, and he will come to the land of Israel, and he will bear witness of the devastation. And after that happens, then God will start bringing you back to the land. Now, did this ever happen? Did the stranger come? Well, the amazing thing is it did. He came from far away, came to the land, bore witness of the devastation. In fact, he used the same words that Moses used, that Moses said he would say. He used it, and he's the skeptic. He's not following Moses. And he says the same word. Moses says he'll say, not a blade of grass grows here. He writes down, not a blade of grass grows. He publishes a book. It goes around America and around the world. Who's the man? The man was Mark Twain. Mark Twain is part of biblical prophecy. His first book that made him famous is linked to this prophecy of Moses, and he comes in the year 1867, which is going to be the key year, the first year when all these mystery things start happening in the land that are preparing it for what's going to take place in the 20th century and in our day. It's planting the seeds. And it was just after he comes that the land starts being planted. He comes right after that the Jewish people begin to start returning one by one to the land. It all is set in motion. And this year is going to set in motion everything that's going to determine when everything else is going to happen up to our day right now. And the thing is, for 2,000 years, the Jewish people have been praying this prayer every day. They've been praying, Lord, hear our prayer, be merciful, and bring us back to the land. Restore us. Hear our prayer, be merciful, and restore us. Well, Mark Twain's real name wasn't Mark Twain. He was born with the name Samuel Clemens. Samuel in Hebrew means the Lord has heard, and Clemens means and has been merciful. Who can put that together? And not only that, when he reached the culmination, Jerusalem, last full day and night in Jerusalem, it's the Sabbath, and there's an appointed word that's being read all around the world by the Jewish people. They're opening up the scrolls, and they're chanting it. What are they chanting? They're doing it in Jerusalem. He's actually hearing them chant this, but he can't understand Hebrew. They're chanting, the prophecy is appointed for that day is, the stranger shall come to the land and shall bear witness. So here he is in the land at that moment. God is causing everything to come together, and that's true up to our day.
Well, Jonathan, I'm just amazed by the many connections that you make throughout the book. Let's progress. Let's go through that second door. What was the next Jubilean event?
If you count for 50 years, the question is, will another prophetic major event of restoration take place? You count 50 years, where does it bring you? It takes you to the year 1917. Does anything happen significant in that year? Amazing. It becomes the year of the next prophetic gigantic event. Now the mystery is going to explode on the world stage. It's going to be into a world war that's going to cause empires to rise and fall. The empire that has the land of Israel is Muslim, and they don't want the Jewish people to have a nation, and that's the Ottoman Empire. They get into the war, and the year 1917, they start crumbling. Year of Jubilee, they start crumbling. The Jubilee says whoever's occupying your land has to get off. On the other side, you have the British Empire that's had a revival. There are people praying for the Jewish people. They get pulled into the war, and they issue the Balfour Declaration in 1917, year of Jubilee, which, what does it say? The land of Israel is to go back to the Jewish people. So here it says in the Jubilee, the land shall return. The Balfour Declaration, first time in 2,000 years, year of Jubilee. But they don't have the land. But that part of the mystery comes near the end of the year, 2017, when a Christian named General Allenby comes into the land, and the Ottoman Empire flees the land, and he enters Jerusalem, and the land is liberated after 2,000 years of enemy rule to be restored to its original owner, year of Jubilee. There's so many mysteries in the second door, but I'll share just one. It's called the number of the end. There's a number in Daniel that indicates the time when the occupier of the land has to leave the land. It's the number 1335. Now, there's a fulfillment yet to come, and there's the thing about having to do with days, 1335, but the number is 1335. The amazing thing is, Shaun, is that in the year of Jubilee, 1917, all of a sudden, the number of the end, 1335, starts appearing throughout the Middle East, starts appearing in Israel, starts appearing in Egypt, on coins. Why? Because it just so happens that on the Muslim calendar, that year is the year 1335, the number of Daniel, when the occupier has to leave, and the Muslims are occupying it, and they have to leave, and that's the year that they start leaving Israel, they leave Jerusalem, they're driven out, and it all happens at the same time. And when that year actually comes to its finale, it's a particular date, October 16th. On that date, that is when the Balfour Declaration is given the go-ahead to give the land to the Jewish people. I mean, again, God even works together the Muslim calendar with the Jubilee and the Book of Daniel.
Next, Jonathan, let's have you talk to us about Herzl's dream and his prophecy. What do we need to know about that third door?
All right. As I said again, remember, I'm able to do kind of like doorknobs. There's so much in every door.
Peeking through the keyhole.
It'll give your listeners a taste. So if we open up the third door, Herzl is the visionary of Israel. Theodor Herzl is like the father or the grandfather of the Jewish nation. And he had the vision of it. But what people don't know is he had a secret. Before he died, he revealed it. He had a dream when he was a kid, and he saw the Messiah in the dream, he said. And the Messiah said, "This boy is appointed to prepare the way. Tell the Jewish people, I am coming. Prepare the way so I can come." And now Jesus, Messiah, says that he's only coming back when the Jewish people are in Israel and in Jerusalem and say, "Blessed is he." So all this works. This is the founder of Israel, and it's linked to this thing of Messiah and the prophecy. Well, Herzl, he founds the Zionist movement, which is basically the Jewish people will return to Zion. He has a Congress, and they come up with a national anthem, a flag. Well, there's no nation, but they come up in faith. Right at the end of that, he writes today, he says, "Now I've founded the Jewish state." Now, the whole world would laugh at me if I said it out loud. He said, but the whole world will know it, and he gave a time period. He said, when they'll know it, by. He says, the whole world will know it in 50 years. 50 years' time. That's Jubilee. 50 years. Well, when did he write it? He wrote it in 1897. The 50th year is 1947, the very year that Israel comes back into the world and the whole world knows it. Not only that, Shaun, but I looked at the original document, the plan that brought Israel back into the world, the United Nations, and has a date on it. The date is September 3rd. The Herzl's prophecy has a date on it. It's September 3rd. It was 50 years fulfilled to the exact day. I mean, this is how exact this is. And another mystery from the third door is this. Prophetic event. May 14th, 1948, Israel is declared to the world. May 15th at midnight, it comes back into the world. After 2,000 years, prophetic event of our generation. There's only one other that compares that will come after that, but has to do with Jerusalem. But this is it. This is the beginning here, 1948. But it's a Sabbath. It was declared on Friday night, and it came into existence on Saturday. That means the scroll is going to open around the world. And what is appointed from ages past in that scroll? It's going to be read, chanted around the world. What is appointed? This is the day of the resurrection of Israel, when Israel is raised up from the dead. God plants them in the land, and the word is a prophecy from Amos, and it says this, all over the world, on that day appointed for May 14th, says, on that day, God says, I will raise up the fallen tabernacle of David. That's Israel. I will rebuild the nation as in ancient times. I will plant them in the land. They will rebuild the cities. They will plant the land, and no one will uproot them on that day. It's the prophecy of the resurrection of Israel. So here all around the world, the Jewish people, the words are being chanted because it was appointed for that day from times past, ages past. It's appointed for May 14th. And as they're chanting the resurrection is taking place. That's the awesomeness, the reality of God in our world. I'll tell you one more from the third door, and then we'll get to the next one. One more, and there's a mystery that has to do with the president. Even the president of the United States are part of the mystery. Truman is linked to an ancient king, and so much. There's something called the Day of the Scrolls that we're waiting for 2,000 years that come to light. But the one I want to tell you is the Jubilean Code, and that is this. There is in the Bible, the first time that God ever tells Israel, you shall return. First time. It's actually not even in a prophecy. It's in the law of the Jubilee, which says on the year of Jubilee, everyone shall return. You shall return, it says, to your ancestral land. It's in the plural. It's to the nation. You shall return. In Hebrew, the word for you shall return, it's one word. It's tashuvu. That means you shall return. But in Hebrew, the way you write a year out is you don't use numbers, you use letters. Because every Hebrew letter has a numerical value. That's how you do the year. That's the official way. Well, amazing thing. This is mind-blowing. Over 3,000 years ago, in the scrolls of Moses, when it says, you shall return, the word has 4 letters. It adds up to a number. It adds up, that indicates that tells you the year. It adds up to a year, and the year is 1948. You shall return. From the very beginning, it was all there. It tells you the year that Israel returns, will return to the world, 1948. I mean, mind-boggling.
Absolutely amazing. Let's enter the fourth door. You cover so much in that section of the book, Jonathan. What do we need to know about to get a taste of what we're going to encounter on the other side of that fourth door?
Well, the thing is that Jesus said, I will not come again until Jerusalem. I mean, he's going to come back to Jerusalem. So the thing is that when Israel came back to the world, there was no Jerusalem. They didn't have Jerusalem. And so the thing is that according to the mystery and end-time prophecies focused on Israel, and not just Israel, but Jerusalem. And the whole world's going to be focused on Jerusalem. So it's got to happen. But here's the thing. If we go back to the cycle, the cycle of the Jubilees, where's the mystery going to take us? 1867, the year of the planting of the seeds. 50 years from there, the 50th year is 1917, the giving of the land. But now count another mystery time period, and it takes you to what year? It pinpoints the year 1967 is the next year. Did anything prophetic take place? This is the year of the Six-Day War. Israel didn't start it, didn't want it. It actually, amazing, because it was Russia, Soviet Union that started it. They gave a false word to the Arab nations that Israel was going to attack them. It was a lie. The Arab world then said, we're wiping out Israel once and for all. Well, the amazing thing here is the godless, anti-Bible, anti-Christian, anti-Jew Soviet Union, and they actually fulfilled biblical prophecy because that war is going to bring about the fulfillment. By the end of that war, Israeli soldiers are going to be entering the gates of their ancient city for the first time in 2,000 years to become their city. They come home, what does it say? In the year of Jubilee, everyone shall return to their ancestral possession. Jerusalem comes back to the Jewish people so that Messiah can return. There's amazing mysteries here I'll just touch on. Well, first, there's a mystery of Masada. And Masada is the desert mountain where Israel made its last stand against Rome, and they died there. But I won't go into the detail, but the oracle reveals there was a mystery hidden in the sands of Masada for 2,000 years, embedded there by God, because it's waiting until the day that the Jewish people will come back and be resurrected, and then they will return to their ancient grave, Masada. And they actually did that. And as they did it, they opened it up, and there was the mystery. And I will just tell you, it's a parchment with a prophecy on it. I won't go into it, but amazing, waiting for 2,000 years that was fulfilled at the day they opened it. But also there's another thing in the oracle called the Masada algorithm. And this is like kind of mind-boggling because it's that the mystery, when Israel returned to Masada, it starts an ancient time clock. And the amazing thing is it's going to tell you, if you count the time, it's going to tell you that Israel is now going to return to the gates of Jerusalem, and it's going to tell you the year, it's going to tell you the month, it's going to tell you the week. The days are going to actually add up to the exact day that the soldiers entered the gates of Jerusalem. I mean, mind-boggling. But let me do two that I think your listeners will be very blessed. One, there's a prophecy I found in the Bible, in Isaiah, where it says that God will fight for Jerusalem as the lion and the young lion. He will fight for the mountain and the hill there, the mountain, that's the Temple Mount. He'll fight for the mountain of Jerusalem as the lion and the young lion. On the Six-Day War, how did Israel get Jerusalem? They weren't trying to. They were trying to protect themselves. They sent a soldier, a Colonel Ben-Ari, to circle the hills around Jerusalem to protect it from the Jordanian troops. And so that led, though, to Jerusalem. The name of that colonel who did that is Colonel Ari, which means the lion. The man who was in charge of the war for Jerusalem, the operation, is a guy named Arik Regev. He sends the word. He's the one who sent the word, that's time, take Jerusalem. Arik Regev, his name means the lion. He sends word to another guy who's waiting by the wall, intelligence officer, who gets the word to take Jerusalem. His name is Arik Achman. His name means the lion. Finally, he sends word to the Mount of Olives, where there's a commander with the paratroopers. He's the hero of the Six-Day War for Israel, for Jerusalem. His name is Colonel Mata Gore. Now, Gore is a different kind of name, but Gore doesn't mean the lion. Gore means the young lion. So here now you have the young lion, the lion here, commanding there. He takes his men through the gates of Jerusalem first time, and the first two people in the gates are Colonel Gore and the intelligence officer, Arik Achman. They're also the first two who are on the Temple Mount. Now, the scripture, the prophecy says God will come down, fight for that mountain as the lion and the young lion. Their names together mean the lion and the young lion. I mean, how exact? And what gate did they go through to get Jerusalem? The Lion's Gate. What is that telling you? When the Lord came the first time, he went through the gates of Jerusalem at Passover as a lamb, but it's telling you the next time he's coming as a lion. And it was God as a lion who brought Jerusalem back. I'll tell you one more behind this door, and there's so much, but this is the mystery of the Jubilean man. And that is this. I can only do some of it, but here's the thing. When the Jubilee comes, what sound do you hear? You hear the sound of the trumpet, the sound of the horn, the sound of the shofar. And the thing is that, could it ever have happened that it actually sounded when these prophetic events took place? Well, when the Israeli soldiers enter the gates and then they get to the Temple Mount, they hear a sound. It's the sound of the shofar, the trumpet as of Jubilee. There's a man sounding it there. And he's not sounding it because he's trying to fulfill the Jubilee. He's for completely different reasons, but it happens at the same moment. But the thing is, on the Jubilee, what happens? The land returns to its original state. What was the original state of the Temple Mount? That's where he's sounding it. It was a threshing floor. In Hebrew, the word for threshing floor is goren. The guy who sounded it was Rabbi Goren, Rabbi Threshing Floor. So here he is on the threshing floor, on the Jubilee, sounding the sound of Jubilee, and he was born in the year 1917, the other Jubilee. So his whole life was waiting for when he turned 50, so he's sounding the Jubilee. It's his Jubilee. He's sounding the Jubilee of Israel on the threshing floor, named Rabbi Threshing Floor, and on top of that, his name, Goren, has another meaning. It also means the horn. So here it is, Rabbi Horn. Boy, here's a guy, imagine, a child is born. His name is Horn. His name is Threshing Floor. When he turns 50, he's born on the Jubilee. When that all comes together in 1967, his life is fulfilled. Again, God, the God of everything, God of the Bible, the God of everything.
Jonathan, we're making amazing rapid-fire progress. Take us into the fifth door, into the next Jubilean year.
Okay.
What happened?
Yes. The one thing that happens in the Jubilee that didn't happen in 67 is that you don't just return to your land, you get the legal right. You get recognized by the authorities. Well, the one thing that didn't happen is that the world refused to recognize Jerusalem as belonging to Israel, only capital in the world. And that's the controversy of the end times, it says, the nations over Jerusalem. But was that ever broken? Was that ever broken? Well, it was, and it was by America. It was by President Trump when he issued the Jerusalem Declaration, first time that any president had recognized Jerusalem, first time any world leader in modern times had recognized Jerusalem, first time any leader in 2,000 years, really even since around the time of Cyrus. This is how significant, how historic this was. This is one of the great, gigantic events here. Recognizing Jerusalem. This is part of prophecy. It's going to lead, the oracle gets into the future, and we will in a moment, but where it leads to, because this is also linked to the temple. But here's the thing. So when did it happen? Well, count the mystery leads you, the next Jubilee, 1967, leads you to the points the year 2017. When did it happen? 2017, year of Jubilee, and just within 30 days of its ending, Trump did it. Now, I'm sure Trump is not studying the Hebrew of Leviticus, but amazingly, he's fulfilling it. That's how it works. It's God, not man. But here's something else. What do you need for the Jubilee? You got the Jubilee, year of Jubilee, but you need the horn. You need the shofar, like in the last one. The shofar shall sound, the trumpet sound. Well, you need that. So you have the shofar, you have the trumpet, and you have the year. What does our president's name mean? In English, it means the trumpet. His trump means the trumpet. So when did he come to power? 2017, the Jubilee. So you have the trumpet. The trump must come to the year of Jubilee and must sound on the year of Jubilee. So he started sounding that year as it began. It says the trump shall sound throughout the land. Well, the trump has been sounding throughout the land ever since. And it doesn't matter if you agree with the trump or not. The fact is this is a sovereign mystery of God. And it says when the trump sounds, the land shall return. The right shall return to the original owner. The trump sounded, and Jerusalem was recognized for Israel. I mean, it's too much. Nobody can put this together. And I'll say this. There is this scripture, mystery scripture, that it was appointed when Trump was born. He was born on Friday. That night was the Sabbath. It was appointed all throughout the world, and I will not go into it except that it links to this mystery. And it was the mystery of his whole life. It was waiting for this. And the other Jubilee, you got Rabbi Horn. Now you got President Trump. I mean, who could put that together? And Rabbi Horn took the horn with him in the Six-Day War because he read the scripture that was proclaimed on the day of Trump's birth. I mean, it's too much. So, but now let me tell you one more for the fifth door, and there's much more, but one more. That is that the mystery in the Bible is that the king makes this proclamation, this declaration of Jerusalem, after a 70-year period, Cyrus. So could Trump have done that? Well, what happens if you go back 70 years from 2017? It takes you to 1947, the year that Israel came back. So it's after 70 years, it seals it. But I looked, Shaun, even deeper at the Hebrew date that Israel was voted into the world. So what would the day be that constitutes after 70 years? It comes out to December 6, 2017. December 6, 2017 is the exact date that Trump issued the Declaration. And that means if we were back there in 1947, it means we could have, if we knew the mystery, we could have said 70 years later, after Israel is born, a man will arise, will come to world power, he will issue a declaration concerning Jerusalem. It all happened. I know I'm rushing now, so let me just say, I know where you're going to go. So we're going to go to the sixth door just for a moment. The sixth door is all about the future, mysteries of the future. And I will just say this, it holds the key to the end times. And one of those keys is the mystery of return. And that is, Jubilee, you return to where you left. So everything has to return. The Jewish people had to return to Jerusalem and Israel because that's where they were at the beginning of the age. So they returned there. But the mystery is the world is part of this. The whole world has to return. Where was the world 2,000 years ago? It wasn't Judeo-Christian. It was unchristian, anti-Christian, pagan Rome. What are we watching right now? The world, the mystery is the world is returning to its original state, which is pagan, anti-Christian. But the good news, there's much more to this, I'm rushing, but the good news is there's a jubilee for us as God's people. Because where was the church 2,000 years ago? It wasn't status quo, it wasn't cultural, rich and established and comfortable and lukewarm, it was the book of Acts. God is calling a jubilee for us now. For those who will stand now in this day, we are to become as the book of Acts, on fire, revolutionary, world-changing, life-changing, all that. Now, I don't have time to go in. There's a whole thing about what we are to become, but let me just say, what's the ultimate thing that this mystery is heading to? If all these things are returning, the Jubilee is that the one who left has to return. Well, the one who's returning is Messiah. The ultimate Jubilee is the king must return to the kingdom, and so Messiah will come. That's what it's all leading up to. But let me just say, the seventh door is a mystery, and it has to do with each one. But I will just say this. The mystery of the Jubilee, the oracle, is ultimately very personal. It's all about your life. It's about the blueprint for your life. It's about the plan that God has for your life. It's about your salvation. You're linked to the Jubilee. It's about God's restoring you to what you were called to be. It's about how to take the power and put it in your life. This is the power of God. And the thing is that what you'll see, and we just scratched the surface, is that God is real, God is awesome, God is amazing, God is in charge of your life. If he keeps his promise to Israel, he's going to keep it to you, and you can depend on it.
Well, Jonathan, thank you for such an information-rich interview. Thank you for writing such a fascinating book. Where can the listeners go online? Where can they connect with you and find out more?
First of all, you can get the Oracle. It's just been released. You can get it everywhere. Just go online, Amazon, go to Walmart, online or wherever books are, you can get the Oracle. Get it also for unsafe friends because it's powerful for them as well. You can go to theoraclemystery.com if you want, theoraclemystery.com. To get in touch with me, go to hopeoftheworld.org. We'll send you free gifts, prophetic updates, hopeoftheworld.org.
And like we do with every episode, we'll have detailed links in the show notes, places where you can connect with Jonathan and get your own copy of the book. Once again, you can find all of that over at shauntabatt.com. It's time to bring this episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show to a close. Many thanks for being a part of my conversation with Jonathan Cahn. Once again, our book today was The Oracle, the Jubilean Mysteries Unveiled. For more on Jonathan and this new book, head on over to theoraclemystery.com. And another great place to get more on Jonathan is his website, which you can find at hopeoftheworld.org. And Jonathan, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing with us today. It's been a great pleasure and an honor to have you back on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Shaun.